together under the continued provision of the state executive order to protect the safety and welfare of the public. The Washington County Board of Education meeting today is closed to the public. Some board members will be participating electronically in order to maintain transparency. The meeting is live streamed and an audio recording will be provided as requested. The live stream link can be found on the website www.wcde.org. Before I call the meeting to order, I am going to take attendance. Annette Buchanan.
Present.
Todd Ganger.
Present.
Chad Fleener.
Present.
Jason Day.
Present.
Mary Beth Dillinger.
Here.
Mitch Meredith.
Here.
David Hammonds.
Here.
Philip McLean.
Here.
And myself, I am here. After a moment of silence, I'd like for Mr. Fleener to lead us in the pledge of the flag. Please have Mr. Schaefer in your thoughts.
Let's play it. Jared? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And you forgot it. Thank you all for coming. First thing on the agenda is graduation. Miss Keys, do you have something you want to talk to us about?
I have a lot of things to talk to you about, if you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
So, out of BOE Connect, Jennifer is going to bring up the update document. It's document 2, planning update, and we're going to walk through that. Also, inside of BOE Connect, you're going to see lots and lots of links to different things. You have links to the parade for each school. You have some demos that Mr. St. John created for small group ceremonies so that you can see what that's going to look like. And that really got me excited about it because it looks really good. You're going to see some examples of different portraits in their graduation gowns that he's created for each school. And then you're also going to see the price inquiries. We got 3 quotes for the outdoor stages and audio systems. And then I linked again the guidance for high school graduations from the Tennessee Department of Ed. And then the very last link is a slideshow from Crockett. Boone is still working on theirs to honor all of our students who were in the top 10% or are graduating with some type of honor. So those will be posted online whenever I get Boone's, and hopefully I'll have it tomorrow. Okay, so in looking at the planning document, I wanted to just give you an update on the yard signs. Inside of BOE Connect, you're going to see a student picture. A parent sent that picture to me for a student who was in the top 10%, and I wanted to share that with you, how excited the kids were, and I'm sure that Ronkill and Lakin and Mallory can speak to that about getting the yard signs. And so all students should have their yard signs now. The celebration of parades, I think we're it. I heard several people in the community say that they would like for this to happen every single year and make it bigger. And so we have some thoughts about how to do that in the future, and I've included those on your update document. I've also included in your update document the dates for the small group ceremony. I'm not looking at the ceiling, I'm looking at my computer. So if you see me like that, with the times in case anyone wants to attend those. And then I have the information about the outdoor ceremony. So at the small group ceremonies, I've created a poll for students to complete on Chromebooks. Of course, they would be sanitized after each use to find out if they would be willing to go to a June outdoor ceremony or a July outdoor ceremony. I've had a couple students tell me that July was way too late, that they're going to be at athletic camps, they're already going to be away at school. And so June would be the ideal day. I just want to make sure we're going to have students there in case we have to move it. So I've included the link so you can look at the form to see what the students would be, what information they would be getting. Okay, budget. Take a breath. I need $18,000. So let me walk you through exactly what that would include. The rental for the outdoor stage, including transport and labor, and audio systems. I have talked to our technology department. If you all have attended a ball game at Daniel Boone, you know that it crackles a lot. The system is just not set up really for an outdoor graduation ceremony. And so we would need to rent those audio systems from the different vendors that provided quotes. We would need to produce programs for students and their families. In July, our teachers are not under contract, and so we would need to pay them for helping, especially the ones who are setting up chairs, roping off areas, doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff. So I've asked to pay 10 teachers, 5 from each school, for up to 10 hours at $20 an hour. And then if we do temperature check before they come in as recommended, we would also need to pay school nurses for doing that. I've talked to Kelly Wagner. She says we have enough thermometers for that, and it would take about 5 nurses at each location for about 2 hours. If we had students report, let's say it's a morning ceremony at 7:30, we would need to start checking temperatures of all faculty members who show up, all students and their families. And so that would be about $400. We would need to pay for our security through the sheriff's office. That's included. And then before we had talked about a stipend for Mr. St. John, I just want to remind everyone everything he's doing. He recorded both grades. He's recording and producing the videography for those small group ceremonies. He's for all these families, and he is going to live stream the outdoor ceremonies. He's making those portraits for the students that I've included in BOE Connect so you can see those. So we're thinking $2,000 is reasonable for that. Looking at the logistics for the graduations, I've worked very closely with our graduation team. I've talked to students. We would social distance the graduating class on the football field. We would ask all guests to be in the stands, home and visitor stands, and it would be first come, first served basis, no saving seats prior to a ceremony. Ticket booths would be used to collect tickets if you all decide to limit capacity. And we will rope off a pathway from the ticket booth to the gate about 10 steps away. I know at Boone, from the gate, we would need to rope that off, and then the nurses would take temperature after guests have turned in the tickets. At full capacity, Daniel Boone will hold 3,000, David Crockett will hold 2,000. The guidance document that's linked in BOE Connect from the Tennessee Department of Ed says that we should limit capacity to 1/3 of what it will hold, every third row. And so if you look at that, Boone can hold 1,000, Crockett can hold 667, which means about 2 guests for each student. If we were to have one large ceremony where every student can graduate with every other student. Now, if you were to divide it up into 2 ceremonies, they could possibly have more guests. But what I've heard from most students, they want to graduate with their friends. So we need to consider that. We are recommending a 9 a.m. graduation to avoid weather. If we graduate later, it's going to get hot in the middle of the day in June. And if we wait until later at night, we can have thunderstorms, those summer thunderstorms that just pop up. Under the portion, questions and concerns for the board, if you look at guests, based on the capacity, if we were to be uniform across the county, that would allow 2 guests per graduate. If we do 2 guests per graduate, we probably need to issue tickets. And so the tickets, we could use the tickets that were not used for athletics. I talked to Danny Good yesterday. He said that they have the school name on them, they have the year on them, and they have softball, baseball, and soccer tickets left over. That would be very hard to duplicate. They have advertisements on the back of them, and we could use those. They would throw them away anyway. They're not going to be used. Safety requirements, Dr. Flannery has been talking to the director of the health department, medical professionals, and from the guidance document that the Tennessee Department of Ed sent out, we should require every person to wear a mask that enters and temperature checks. So I've included that information for you. I talked to Lakin earlier today, and students are probably not going to be excited to wear masks. It's going to be hot. But if they could decorate those masks how they want, and then they could keep them for their scrapbooks, it might be a more positive experience, especially if we could find someone in the community who could make that a cheap cost and students could order what they liked. The stage for setup, normally we have everybody on the stage, all board members, the high school administration, the director of schools. We cannot social distance everyone on the stage. And so we are recommending the director, the high school principal, and one board member at a time. We do not recommend any handshakes because, you're going to be touching 320 some hands at any boom. And we would have a stage set up where the students can pick up the diploma cover. And it is not recommended to have live band or choral performances because when you sing, you project germs. And so I had talked to Lakin earlier about maybe we have some recorded performances where they could kind of choose what songs they wanted to play and use those instead. And those are our brainstorming thoughts as a team. So open it up to discussion.
Can we not use the stage that we have for our graduations anyway? Why do we have to rent any stages?
If we use the stage that Crockett has, it's not suited for weather. So when you take it out there and you set it up, it could possibly work. And Daniel Boone does not have an outdoor stage or a stage period because their stage is built into their gym.
What the fairgrounds?
I looked into that, and I was amazed to find that the football stadium at Boone is a third larger than the main stadium at Fairgrounds. So, yeah, it's open and it saves a ton of money, but it would also cover the number of people that come. Parking's better,
How many does it see?
about 1,000 less. Boone's a big old stadium.
Well, that's expense. I mean, I feel like you can take a couple of flatbed trailers and put up, maintenance can build steps up on the trailer, if we're just gonna put 3 people on there, come off the trailer, park the trailer, you ain't got to worry about anything else. It ain't gonna sink or nothing. It ain't gonna hurt it if it rains or whatever. But you got the social distancing, that's another issue for me. Come 1st of June or 15th of June, it may be lifted. So how can we go about issuing tickets of 2 people or anything like that? I believe we need to kindly hold off on the ticket deal till we
Well,
see
you can
how many-
always, if you issue 2 and then it's cleared, you can always go up. It's
Yeah,
going
but-
down that causes the
Go
problem.
down.
What's that? Go
What?
ahead.
If we're just allowing 2 tickets, would the fairgrounds not hold that?
Not
Not
at a
6 feet apart.
Okay.
third of the
I don't
recommendation.
know.
Dr. Keys, does that also mean faculty, or are they not encouraged to come? I know
They- We are not providing any seating for faculty because we wanted to provide as many seats as possible for family.
That makes sense, okay.
And for the fairgrounds, I talked to the fairgrounds, the main stage area, he said he could hold at max capacity 2,500 people. I've talked to students and they are not okay with the fairgrounds. They want to graduate at their school if they cannot graduate at ETSU.
Okay.
I mean, it was a resounding no, please no, from the students.
Chad?
The guidelines on the graduation have not been updated since April 23rd, Ashley, per Dr. Geese.
I know.
What come out Monday, I hadn't looked, but like large gatherings and stuff, that the new guidelines come out
I
yesterday?
can address that. According to the health department I talked to before lunch today, the governor is supposed to issue new guidelines this week for large gatherings such as a high school graduation.
22nd, I think.
So, do we just need to approve spending this money, or whatever we need to do, and then wait and see what, on the ticket guidelines till we have our meeting, 1st of June? Or set up one in a couple of weeks to find out where well, 1st of June's not 2 weeks yesterday.
Yeah.
So our next board meeting will be 2 weeks, 2 days. So, I just don't know that social distancing, we're gonna open up restaurants to full capacity starting Friday.
Really?
And sitting in the restaurant, you're not gonna be 6 foot away from each other. So I think there's more to learn here in the next short period of time before, I hate to turn out and say we're just gonna allow 2 family members when you can take your family of 8, go out to eat Cracker Barrel and sit with people you don't even know.
Well, I think it's fine to set it at 2 tonight if we need to or whatever, and then we can bump it up. I know June meeting, if things change, we'll say, okay, well, we can open it up a little more.
We could wait to issue tickets until the week before the ceremony. I was thinking Monday, Wednesday, when they do food distribution at both high schools, then graduates could just drive through then. And so we could wait and see what the regulations are right before the ceremony.
That makes sense.
I like that
Yeah,
idea.
I like that idea too.
Can we, how do y'all feel about just letting Mr. Flannery work this stage, and if trailers will work, whatever, let him make the decision or executive decision on the expense of the stuff?
I would really like to have the dollar amount set by the school board and then work within that budget. If that's the will of the board.
Well, that's the thing. We can approve up to this dollar amount tonight, and then as things change, it may become less. If social distancing is no longer a thing at that time, then we'll need the stage, because the board will be up there, Dr. Flannery will be up there, the principals will be up there. We can all be up there at that point, so we'll need that stage. So I think it's just gonna be a moving target, but I think we should just approve that dollar amount if the board wants to tonight.
Go ahead, Chad.
So we're gonna approve the, are you willing to take a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I guess if nobody else has anything to say about it.
Well, I'm just confused because I know that for virtual graduation, we can have up to 6 people. And I know that the real one's not going to be until later in June, but to me it's kind of confusing and unfair that we could have 6 people with us at a small group graduation, and then when it's our real one, we can only have 2 people, which is your parents, and or a lot of people have siblings. So that means both of my brothers won't get to see me actually graduate normally. So it's kind of confusing why we would go from having 6 guests to only 2 if by that point social distancing rules have been limited. Because we can do it out back where I work, we can have up to 6 guests at a time. And if we are opening restaurants at full capacity, I don't understand how it's not fair for you to have like 4 or 6 people at a graduation ceremony if it's outside in the open air and people are wearing like gloves and masks, like protective stuff. That's just like my thoughts about it.
Okay, that's a good thought.
I agree.
What's Lakin and them think
If the,
Give me a motion.
what's the,
about it? I make a motion, we set aside $18,000 for the graduation, and we can make a decision on number of guests and everything, June the 4th.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Well, what does, Lakin and Ron Keel think? They want, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa.
does, and I just ain't been keeping up with it real well. So where are we at with the governor and opening everything up? I mean, are they gonna lift everything back to normal?
He's gonna make another decision on the 22nd.
So if he does that and life goes back to normal, we're not just go back to our high schools and have normal graduation?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to have a regular normal graduation, if there's no stipulations.
Dr. Flannery, how often do you get an update from our local?
Health, the regional health department, I'm gonna have a WebEx thing possible.
So at this point, they are saying no, but if they're saying no to the full graduation of the hospitals, like we normally have.
What's going on?
It's one of them.
Background.
There is currently no protocol in the state of Tennessee that will,
David, tell David to mute his. You can see it.
right
Thank you,
now,
sir.
the state has 2 documents. One of them is reopening Genesee responsibly, and the other one is the protocol that the commissioner put out for graduations, and that's all we've got. There is nothing right now that governs a large group, like 1,000 people at a graduation. We understand that will change this week. What it looks like, Governor Lee has kept played his cards very close to his chest. And he has very regular press conferences, I watch most of them. And even the Commissioner Swin says, I don't know what he's gonna say until he says it to everybody, even about schools. So if you had to have it tomorrow, you would have to take everyone's temperature, you would have to issue masks, you would have to do social distancing, and you would have to restrict attendance. In 2 weeks' time, when this is scheduled, it may be completely different. Or the medical professionals are saying, because nobody's wearing masks in public, nobody's social distancing anymore, they're looking for, and this is from Vanderbilt University, a pretty sharp upswing in the infection rate in Tennessee in the next couple of weeks. But that's all the information I've got.
Which is all guesses, pretty much.
It's guesses made by physicians. Or no, it's not me.
I know, I'm just saying, it's, nobody knows. I mean, I'm good with what we made a motion for, but I swear I wish y'all would think, if they open everything back up, I hope we can all get together and have a normal graduation, because I've been thinking about it a little more here lately. The rest of their life, they don't get but 1 day to do this for a few hours, and they'll never get to walk across that stage. And the more I think about it, the more I feel for them, and I really, if there's any, and if nobody wants to come, or if they want to wear their mask and wear their gloves, let them come. But if there's no bands, I say we let the kids make the choice if they want to walk the stage and do it, if we get the opportunity to do that.
Well, I'm in favor of having the graduations outside at the football field. Now, that's my opinion. I don't want to go inside. If we can go outside, 9 o'clock in the morning, it won't be very hot. It'll be over with by 10:30. You know, let's go outside. Let's have it outside. Let's find out how many kids we can have it in the next 2 weeks, what the governor says, and let's go from there.
So do we need to have this motion and the money appropriated now, or would we be better off to wait 2 weeks
to get the stuff together if we wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, but you don't wanna get together and then we don't use it.
I know. Where's the money coming from?
I say we wait till we get the,
I know that too.
The only place at this point to pull that money from is in the instructional category. There is a line where we get random supplies through, that would be the only place to pull the funds from.
So there is money out there to be used that was in,
Grade Z, there would be for
if she
updates.
cancels it,
We could probably even say, if you want to say up to 20,
we
to
can
get
say,
money back, you
we don't
could.
use it or what.
But,
I asked that.
Ashley, or Dr. Keys,
Jennifer, when you pull up document 1, the school year 20 outdoor graduation price inquiry, I would really like to reserve the stage and the audio before the next board meeting if at all possible. If you look at that document once she gets it up.
Ashley, can you, if we reserve this, if we vote on this and we end up looking up and able to have a regular top graduation and we need to cancel some of this stuff, can we get our money back or?
When you say look up and have a regular graduation, are you talking about inside the school gymnasiums?
Well, y'all don't do that.
No, we wanna have it outside.
Then we're still gonna need this outdoor stage and the audio system for the football arenas. Inside BOE Connect, in addition to giving you the quotes, I've shared my entire folder with you so that you can look at the pictures of the outdoor stage, what that will look like. We need that.
So will that be big enough, Dr. Keys, for everybody, if everybody gets to be on there?
Yes, I was told that, like Mr. Hensley's Appalachian Light and Sound, King College has used them before for graduations. It's a very large stage. If you look in BOE Connect under, let's say, Appalachian Light and Sound, inside of that folder, you will see a stage picture that he has provided. Ambrose Sound, he has provided several pictures. You can see how large that stage is. I mean, they use it for country music festivals.
Okay. I have a, does our school football field sound system not good enough? When we're sitting there with 3,000 people watching a football game, we can all hear the speakers and the sound.
Lincoln and Ron Key.
Yeah, they're all laughing at you. They're
Well,
like,
they can
no.
laugh, that's fine.
That's not,
I'm not more concerned about, we're all sitting there in the football game and we hear it.
We were not together.
Yeah, we were laughing at that. We were just thinking, like, if money's gonna be, like, a problem, like, we could have a fundraiser as an option, because we're sure, like, I'm positive a bunch of people would donate for that cause, and, like, we were laughing because, I told Ron Keel to say it, and I didn't want to say it, so he's laughing at me.
Well, we're just trying to do it the right way, the best way, the cheapest way.
Yeah.
Mr. Irvin, I talked to Curtis and Vince about the sound systems, especially Boone's. It crackles and breaks when they're trying to sing and use it. And when we take wireless mics and try to go into the middle of the football field and do it for the valedictorian speeches and everything else, it's just not cut out for that. So Curtis said that he is willing to use the money from technology if he needs to provide the audio, because the audio is just not set up for an outdoor graduation like that.
We can't take a chance on it not working, I guess.
It would be
So with
embarrassing, wouldn't it?
these
Yes, it
three,
would.
have you decided on one?
Well,
But-
Boone would like to use Winkle Productions because they use Mr. Winkle for all of their like choral concerts and different things. But no, we have not decided on one yet because I wanted to bring it to you.
Well, who gives us the best deal?
Ambrose.
Ambrose Sound, and he's worked with Kelly Davenport at Crockett. He is not charging us anything for labor and transport. That's why you see a cheaper price on there.
Okay.
That sounds good. He's
will he do the one at Boone too? We have to get somebody for Boone.
No, he did. The quote should say both.
Okay, I can't see it.
That's per event, right? So that will be
Yes.
2 charges. of
Yes, 2
$49.
charges, $900.
Well, I have a motion and a second. I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Fleener, you have something else?
Is that included this right here? The
Well, I
stage
guess-
and everything?
Can I amend his motion? Yep. I'd like to amend, Mr. Fleener's motion to accept the 4,900 from Ambrose Sound. Is that acceptable?
I
Take
have a
the
motion,
bid.
do I have a second?
I second.
Todd, I didn't know what you said.
I was just saying, take the bid of Ambrose Sound.
Yes.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please, on the amendment.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yeah.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Aye. Okay, now I have a motion as amended. I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote on it.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Meredith. Mr. Meredith,
Oh, yes.
and Mr. Urban.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Anything else, Ashley?
So, for the record, if the next time the board meets, we're going to look at safety protocols.
How many people we can let come?
And the time of day set at 9
9 AM.
a.m.
Let me ask a question on that one Friday graduation for Crockett. It's gonna still be at 9 a.m.?
It's up to you. Well, I guess that's what the motion says. right?
Yes.
I thought we was gonna do them on Saturdays.
If you go with one vendor for a stage, they can't move the equipment. The only way you can do it the same day is to use two vendors.
We were trying to make sure the heat, the weather, everything was
Well,
kind
I
of.
We just gonna have to make an exception this year.
That's
don't
right.
have to tell
Roll
Mother
the
Nature we
punches
don't
right
need
here,
no rain.
roll the punches.
I don't like 9 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning.
Life busy
Well, we
living.
gave them
Make
enough time
Exactly.
I don't like
to make arrangements.
I don't like having it Friday and Saturday, but we got it, big guy.
I don't like it either, but that's,
I don't like doing it outside football field, but we're gonna have to. Just gonna go with it. What's next?
All right, thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
What's next here? Student recognition.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that Board Member Buchanan will have a statement she'd like to make.
Okay,
I just wanted to give Ron Kill the opportunity to address the email you sent us. Do you want to do it or you want me to?
Like the
About
recognition
About
email?
Brittany,
About who?
about Brittany. Is it Bailey?
You Bailey?
Yes,
Bailey?
sorry.
Yeah, she was supposed to be in here, but I guess she couldn't make it. But yeah, so it was the parade was the Hall Bailey's idea. We just kind of worked together on it, and I just wanted her to get a lot of recognition for what it is, because like we wouldn't have been able to have it at all if it wasn't for her, like at all. Because I hadn't thought about it, and yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that she got the recognition that Mr. Joyner thought she deserved.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Extraordinary.
we literally just started out as an idea, as us just trying to like hang out with our friends, and then we just turned into something more. And I mean, she came up with the amazing idea, and we went from there.
What is her name again?
Bailey Wynn.
Okay, thank you.
That was a great idea,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very
and I
successful.
think we started some, but that was good.
That's all I have, sir.
okay. Boones Creek Middle School property.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Sandy and Joe Wilson are standing by. Should the board require their input, they can take a phone call at this time.
Alright. What's the,
So currently, it's 2 million is what we said, but, and we had it appraised last year for 1.7.
178, almost 1.8. Gentlemen at the Brokers Realty and Auction have done some research for the board. I think they'd like to share about property values, property that is sold within a mile radius. I think they'd very much like to address it. That's up to you.
I'd like to hear what they say.
I'd like to hear what they got to say. I ain't gonna, I mean,
Good, if you will, go ahead and see if we can get them logged in.
I will.
I'm gonna get Mr. Wilson first, if that's all right with you.
He is the principal broker, I believe, is he not? Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir.
This is Bill Flannery. You are live with the Washington County Board of Education.
Hey, Bill, how are you all?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Hey, let me pull Brian Sanjit into this conversation. If you don't care, give me just 30 seconds.
Sir, He's not here through the rooms, he just listens to us. I guess you better leave here. Okay. It appears, board members, that I'll have to relay questions and comments unless you shout at the phone on the register.
we lose him again?
Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson, you there?
Dr. Flannery?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, for some reason we dropped out. I don't know what happened, but Brian is trying to be back in here with us, so hold on here 1 second. Okay, Dr. Flannery, we have Brian Sanjit and Joe Wilson here.
Okay, gentlemen, if you want to, you can go, everybody in the room and online can hear you if you'd like to go ahead and make your statements.
Okay. Well, as we talked earlier today, we've done some work in trying to come up with reasonable values. Since we've had the property listed, we have had a group out of New York look at the property. We've had a doctor look at the property for warehouses. We've had a group look at it for senior citizen housing. So we've had a number of different groups looking at the property, and the response that we have had, and we've had other realtors showing the property also. And all the feedback that we're getting is that it's just too much of an undertaking to try to purchase it with all the work that needs to be done to the building. And so we went back, Brian and myself went back, and we have pulled comps that have sold within a 2-mile radius of the subject property. We took a high and the low out of the sales that we came up with, and I think we forwarded that on to you Dr. Flannery.
Yes, I believe you did, yes.
And I don't know if the board members have that information or not, but taking the high sellout and the low sellout, it came up to an average of $52,080 an acre, I believe is what it came out to. And so just on the land of 12.39 acres, that would come up with a value somewhere around $650,000 on the land. And with the building, the 50,000 square feet in its present condition, we just feel like we'd like to see a reduction, if possible, of somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.2 million is what we would like to see it at. And you all can tell us what your thoughts are.
Can I relay a question for anyone?
I guess my question would be, would it benefit us to tear the building down and sell it? What would it cost to tear the school down and sell it, just the land ourselves? Would it be beneficial to do that?
That's a very good question. I think it's going to, cost you, and, I don't have an exact number, but get rid of that building to dispose of it. I would think you're looking in the neighborhood of $200,000 to $300,000 to dispose of it. So that's a very good question. I'm not sure if that would be, there's another avenue that we could look at going down. We have not brought this up, but we could put this piece of property up at auction, and we could do a division of the property. We could probably divide it into about 3 different parcels. You'll be getting from A to Z in a timely fashion, and that's, that might be something that you would want to look at instead of, we're each month I know it's costing, the county dollars just sitting there. And, but, we are working very hard, and there is, Brian, you might want to share some information about, we do have some new people coming. You all have seen this in the press chronicle, I'm sure, but we've got some new companies coming to town. And I know Brian has shared some of that information. You might want to go with it right here. Okay. Well, it looks like the new company is definitely seeking in the Johnson City area. There's not a whole lot of buildings out there for what they would be looking for, and this could be an option if they were able to renovate, take the property, renovate it, and it would supply a lot of parking, and you add asphalt parking spots. But obviously it's going to take a tremendous amount of work to get that building where it needs to be. So we're just trying to help each other out by making these recommendations based on what we've found to date and where we are now. One of the comps we sent you guys just up the street is a new comp that we didn't see when we were first looking at evaluating the value of your property. It sold in late November of 2019 and hadn't shown up on record until recently. But it's about, I want to say, close to 10 acres and sold for, let me just look here, sold for $510,000, averaging $52,000 an acre, right along with what Joe was saying, land value, average land value. So I got off track a little bit with the company that's looking, but just trying to give you some more information, feedback of where we are now. This one particular company that Brian's speaking of, they're gonna be needing approximately 300 parking places, which, you know, the property would be very, more than adequate for their needs. But, you know, there's going to be, quite a bit of work to be done there too, as far as getting pad ready.
How long we had this listed? How long has it been listed? How long has it been listed?
About 4 months, I would say. I mean, I can
Some-
double check,
about
somewhere in that range.
3.5. So, Joe, you're saying that the property is worth $650,000 without the building on it? And then it's going,
Based on the comps that we're working with, yes.
and it's gonna cost us $300,000 to tear it down, so that means we're gonna get $300,000 out of it, right?
Well, you know, if you,
If we decide to tear it
doing
down.
the math, yes, that's what it would be. You know, and here again, I haven't had anybody out there give us, you know, any quotes on taking the building down.
Yeah, I understand.
But you're saying then that it's worth 52,000 an acre, but if we tear that school down and the road frontage, we couldn't get more than 52,000 an acre for that?
I think we could get more out of, you know, based on the road frontage that is there. And, you know, if, the topography is also a challenge, it's above road grade, but, you know, we're just giving you the comps that are out there that we have to work with, is all. We're just trying to enlighten you all.
I don't understand that big of a discrepancy in the appraisal that we had a year ago.
A board member said that she doesn't understand the discrepancy in the appraisal that we had a year ago.
Well, you know, we did not do that appraisal, and I don't know, you know, where their figures came from. You can always take into account when buildings and properties have life in them, people are around, people are there. There's always more value than when no one's there, buildings are empty, lights are off. The appeal factor goes away to an extent versus when everything's, you know, properties as they sit vacant go down quicker than as there are people in them and maintaining them.
Has no one made an offer? I mean, you said people have looked at it and that no one's decided to just throw a number out there to see if it sticks.
No, to this point, no one has made an offer. The last, about I'm gonna say 3 weeks ago, I showed it to a doctor. We went up on the second floor and there was buckets sitting all around, that were full and water was, you know, it wasn't catching any water anymore. It was just starting to leak down into the second floor, from the second floor into the first floor. And, you know, he just said, this is not going to work for us. We, there's, you know, he felt like there might be some environmental issues starting to come into play.
How far, Joe, is that property away from the new Boones Creek corridor that they're all planning on starting out there? Mile?
Are you talking about the retail sales?
Yeah. How far is it?
I will say it is at max 2 miles at max.
Board, I feel like we need to sit on it for a little while.
It's costing us so much money.
Turn the power off.
Then the insurance quits covering.
Well, I mean, there's gotta be an insurance out there somewhere that we can get to cover that piece of property in that building if it was to get hurt. That's my thinking. If we had our own insurance policy.
Are we done with them?
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you.
Gentlemen, if they have no further comments unless you do.
Well, we are definitely, trying our best to help. We'll do everything in our power to make it work for everybody, because, it's not only good for the county, it's good for all the citizens, and that's what we're trying to make happen here.
Anything else?
Thanks.
Gentlemen, I will advise you of any action the board takes. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
So
Okay.
how long are you willing to sit on it?
Well, we've only had it for 4 months.
I'm just asking.
Well,
I mean,
a year? Let's look at it in a year's time. I know it's cost us money, either turn the heat up or turn the,
That ain't gonna be, that's pennies.
well, I feel like that somewhere, if we have to, there's somewhere that will give us insurance on that thing. Mary Beth?
Well, based on the appraisal we had last year of almost 1.8 and their recommendation of 1.2, if we could meet them halfway and put, say, 1.5, would
Where-
that be?
Where's the appraisal at?
We
Where's
have a
the
copy
appraisal
of
at?
it. Do you have a?
Bill, what was his name? Bill,
Well, I know it is.
who done the
You're
appraisal?
I don't know, some outfit.
Ain't
got
on my
all that.
car or anything.
It was a Washington County appraisal service in Boonesboro.
Bill
that-
didn't do it.
That would be
Bill,
kind of
no,
meeting
he
them
wouldn't even return
halfway.
my calls. He's been.
But you ain't meeting them, they don't care.
I know, but I mean, it's meeting their recommendation.
Mr.
Yeah.
McLean?
Right now, it's 2. That must be way, yeah.
I'd like to recommend that our maintenance department get out there and empty those buckets and mop the floor up. Make a little bit better presentation.
Jan?
I got an idea, I just wanna throw this out here. We own that property. I'd rather see, and it's just my opinion, we can wait on this and see what happens, but I'd rather tear down that building and build one football stadium for both schools. It's right there on the 4 lane. And do something like that before we just give it away and don't get what we need to out of it. We already own it. But now there is gonna come a point where at $10,000 a month to keep up the maintenance up cost, it just ain't worth it. I mean,
Well, I mean, well, I understand, but
You're gonna do a football stadium that services both high schools. You're gonna really need it to be a little bit more centrally located.
if we have to pay, if we don't get nothing out of this and we have to end up buying more property, it costs us more. We ain't done too much. I mean, it's just a thought. We own it.
I've had people call me and ask me when we're gonna do something with it instead of that ban on it. But at some point, we gotta come to a realistic agreement amongst us of what this property is. We'll either need to get in the development business and split it up ourselves and sell it like you think it's worth.
are they an expense to this system if we got the architect or whoever to go out there and tell us what it would cost to tear it down?
Yeah.
I mean, what would?
They do it
roughly,
by the yard. Do you have a plan?
Tony Street said to tear down the round building for one of our scenarios that we had for Jonesboro,
Yeah.
that was gonna take 300,000. That building's a lot bigger than this round building is.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get it torn down the hall away for $300,000.
But I still think the property's worth a lot more money than 50,000 an acre.
My only fear is, Keith, that because you think that, and we sit on it for another year at 8,000 plus a month, and then you realize it ain't worth what you think it's worth.
I'm gonna cut that 8,000 out.
You can't cut it. We
Why?
done talked
Tell
about
me
this.
why you
We
can,
gotta have
look at all
insurance,
these
we
other
gotta have
schools
policy.
that's sitting there empty.
Well, you ain't know who owns them.
Well, the county does.
I
You
mean,
go over here,
well, the
if
really
you wanna
does
put
is,
some kind of insurance on it, put some, you're already looking at the roof leaking. I'm sorry, cut the power off.
Or sell it cheaper and get rid of it. I mean, it's,
But
I mean, here's the thing, somebody that's just gonna go out and buy a school ain't no dummy. I mean, they got a little bit of sense. If they're gonna go out and buy an old school building, they know what it's gonna cost to tear it down. They know what they can do with the land. They know what the road frontage, they already know all that.
yeah,
If it was a deal, somebody would buy
yeah.
it, and it ain't.
Well, obviously, the price right now is too much.
It's too much. I mean, you don't even get, you don't even have to offer it 4 months.
yeah, I mean, that's why I asked. I mean, you'd think somewhere along the line, somebody tried to lowball you, and they're not even trying to do that.
Cause you ain't even close.
And I hate to say it, but we just had an open meeting about this, dropping the price. I'm not going in there buying it now, knowing this board could possibly drop the price. I mean, our hands are tied now, if you ask me, to drop it, or you're gonna be sitting on it.
I think if you're gonna sit on it, like Keith wants to do, we need to have a proactive plan every 2 months at least to drop the price. If we're not, until we get an offer.
Well, does anybody?
Well, you got it at 1 point, I mean, it's at 2 million.
I'll make a motion, we drop it to 1.
Wait a
Okay,
minute,
sorry.
just a second. Mitch?
Yeah, I didn't hear him. I heard Judd or somebody made the comment about going to auction. And I haven't heard any, or either I missed it, but was there any discussion about the pros and cons of doing that? That's gonna set the market value.
Hey, Mitch,
Yeah,
the only thing I wonder, if we auction it and we set a minimum that we would agree to take for it before the auction and it don't bring it, Chad, we've really,
Well, you need to have an auction, in this case would be have an auction, have a 10-day period to raise the price. You know, sell it Saturday, they got 10 days, they can raise the price
Somebody
5%
can come in.
times. And then in 10 days, you open it, you give it to the board and say, this is what we got. And the reason you do that is you got 10 days right there. If it brought nothing, somebody may come in and want to, get inflated some.
well,
But
let me ask you this, Mitch. If you auction it and it don't bring nothing, what's it worth then?
well, that's what it's worth right now, because nobody's even bid on nothing.
I know, I'm just being serious, like, what, worst case scenario, what do we do in that case, when the public knows that it didn't bring nothing? I mean, somebody will bid $500,000.
And
Well-
move somebody away from here.
If y'all are so worried about selling this thing,
We are.
you've only had it on the market for 4 months.
Well, let's price it.
Price the thing, put it at 1.8, what the appraisal price is. If y'all want to get rid of it, put it at the appraisal price. I mean,
Go ahead.
I feel comfortable saying that a year down the road, if this Boones Creek deal gets going, property out there is gonna go out the roof. It's got to.
Yeah, I think we're in a position now we have to lower it some. I don't know.
I make a motion, I'm sorry.
I was gonna make a motion, but we.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion, we put it at 1.8 at the appraisal price. What it appraised.
I'll second that.
Mr. Ganger?
You're saying 1.8, but you really mean the appraisal price. What'd you think? It's like 1.7 something, or,
The appraisal price was not precisely 1.8.
Yeah.
It's slightly less than that.
so you just wanna say the
1.7.
appraisal price, Keith? I mean,
You know me, I'm gonna say 1.8.
Well, I'm just asking,
Okay.
you're saying the appraisal price of 1.8, but it wasn't the appraisal price.
All right, I'll say
Yes.
1.8 million. That's what I'm saying.
It appraisal like 1.78, so it's within.
Yeah, it's
20,000.
close,
Yeah.
but
Mitch, you got your hand up?
No, I'm just
Okay.
moving along.
Mr.
Mr.
McLean? Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan?
No.
Mr. Day?
No.
Ms. Dillinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes.
Mr. Ganger?
aye.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
Aye. Motion passes. I've had a request to take a 5-minute break. Oh, we're not there yet?
Just before the
Okay,
budget.
I've lost my screen. Policy. Mr. Flannery, do you know what that is? I don't know what.
It is a policy that a board member has proposed regarding a job description for human resources. And it should be,
God, that perfume's killing me.
I will turn it off. I've cleaned the air. I'll turn it off.
Oh, it hurts. I'm getting high as a Georgia pie.
You are not.
She's put some silver CBCS.
No,
on
I
it.
did not.
Yeah, that's it.
I can't read that, so
Push the little, click.
I can't get it to come up on this screen, and I can't read that.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I can't read it either, Bill.
There.
What are we doing here, though, while he's looking at that?
Somebody's requested, I don't know who or what.
Can whoever it is
So
tell us
what are we gonna do,
requested?
just sit here and?
Everybody's reading the policy.
But I mean, I wanna know, why do we have a policy? Why are we looking at a policy for a job description, I guess is my question.
I'd kinda like somebody to explain why this is important.
I would say it's because there was not a policy that covered this, would be my guess. I don't know that, but
no policies whatsoever with any job description.
Yeah, we don't-
Except the superintendent's.
Well, who come up with that?
A board member who needs to do it.
Can a board member come up with this, explain to us what this is about?
Or we can move on, one.
I can't hear you all, you are cutting out, but if it's the job description with human resources, that was a recommendation from the TSBA convention during the Ask Attorney, Chuck Cagle and Scott Bennett had weighed in on it, said it was a good, I can't remember the exact question, but they recommended somebody be certified actually in that area for human resources.
Okay, to be presented with the job.
Yeah, they said it'd keep you out of the courtroom, because
Okay.
that's where a lot of things are coming now.
Thank you, David.
I do remember.
Yeah, the only thing I ask on this is that we grandfather in our current human resource director.
Who is that? Susan Karen?
Susan Karen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, my question is, why are we putting this into a policy?
Well, that was the way it was presented. I don't know.
At GSBA.
I know several school systems have done it. This one was from Hawkins County or Hamlin County. I'm not sure. I can't remember which county. But it was just a recommendation from the TSBA attorneys at that time and Chuck Cagle for TOS.
They said put it in policy?
I don't know who else was in that ask the attorney session,
Well, I
but
was in there, and I don't remember this, and I don't remember them saying put it in policy. That mean, because why are we putting one job in policy and not one job description and policy and not every job description in there? That's my question. I mean, I've been on
I
the board.
understand that question. It was just through the attorney, and they just said you do it in policy. So I don't know if they're,
Administrative policy or board policy?
it was policy. That's all they said. I didn't qualify it. I don't know who else was in there.
If this is an administrative thing, not something that goes in board policy.
Well, it's actually a requirement. What it is a 3 years previous HR experience, I believe. I don't know if that's what it says in here.
That's what I'm trying to find. I can't find it.
So this would require
On page 4.
the Human Resources Director to have a degree in Human Resources and not
No,
education.
that's not what the language of this proposed policy says. It
They've
does not
done
say
it
that.
for years.
Page 3.
It just says experience, that's all.
Experience.
Nothing about any certification or license or degree or anything. If it did-
That was just a sample policy sent. I was under the impression that Chuck had mentioned certifications, but I could be wrong.
This policy just says nothing about certification, it says experience.
Where did this policy come from?
Scott Bennett, I had talked to him about it after they asked the attorney session. And asked him if that was something that counties were doing. And he said more systems are adopting that. He said they're also adopting, which, like for finance director, certain qualifications for that, which Brad has proven that works because he's done a great job and that's his expertise.
Well, I'm not.
And I don't know what brought the questions about for the Ask the Attorney. I just came in right as it was being asked. And they were talking about lawsuits and so on, because in certain lawsuits it's been brought up, well, if your human resource director handled this, they challenge their certifications and qualifications. And I think that's what brought it up. But I can't swear to that.
Mr. Chairman.
I just took it, there's several things I brought back from the conference, and that was one of them.
I just want to ask, just because I don't know, so what Todd's asking, so what are you saying? I mean, I like this. What are you saying it needs to be?
Doesn't need to be in the board's policy.
So
It needs to be in, he has, do you not, administrative job descriptions for every job we have? And I also know TSBA probably sent you, or has 100 and some different job descriptions available. I don't know if you've ever went on there and looked, but my point being, it doesn't need to be in the board's policy. This is an administrative policy. He's the one that hires them. He knows the requirements the system needs and everything like that. And he's the one that's
Well,
in
let's
charge
just
of
say,
it.
let me ask you this.
I'm not saying we can't tell him as a board that, you know, we think this needs to be someone with HR experience or something like that. I mean,
Well,
he's
how do we
ultimately,
uphold that? What if him ain't here, somebody else is here 2 years from now or 3 years from now, and they hire somebody
What is that, they won't
who
leave
don't
for
have
that
that
policy?
experience and then policy, who's to say?
so you're wanting to put every job we have
No.
into our policies.
I don't think you have to put every job, but we can put one
Well-
if we want to.
Well, what happens with the next one that's hired and now you don't like that they hired the finance
We
guy?
put it in policy.
Thank you.
I mean, but we can.
Well, I
You don't
think
put them
it
in
was to do with
board
key
policy.
positions, to do with litigation and so on. I don't think Chuck or anybody meant to go down the job. I think it was key supervisor, key administrative positions was what I took from that. But you all may look at it differently, those who were in there with us, but
Can we put it in his policy?
Yes, you have an administrative policy for this, right?
We have administrative procedures, but the only place you can put it is policy.
But the thing is, my point being, if, let's say, we put this in our board policy, okay, and it's got all the job descriptions, somebody doesn't, we don't have a candidate that meets all the job requirements. You now can't hire anybody because board policy states they have to have this qualification, this qualification. You could have a very good candidate, but falls just short, and you can't hire them.
it severely restricts and hampers the director of schools' ability to hire the personnel, the key personnel that he or she needs to operate this school
The
system.
best fit for our system too.
So why would we want somebody who doesn't have a degree in human resources?
I'm not saying we do or don't. I'm saying this policy, if we put this in board policy, it restricts who we can hire.
I understand that, but.
Well, we have the director that we restrict when we hire them. We have education supervisors that we restrict. I mean, there's got to be, this was just a recommendation. I think there's been lawsuits to do with human resources through the state on the rise. And, you know, it's not a make or break for me. I just sounded like good sound advice from the attorneys.
We have.
Maybe, you know, I'm not going to debate them over this because my only question was, could we grandfather in the current person we have? And I was told yes. That was one of my concerns.
Well,
I didn't go into detail, but.
in our policies, we have a teacher's, a teacher has to have a certificate and all this and all that, a bachelor's degree.
State law.
Okay, I mean,
It's not
are
our
they
board
no
policy.
state law?
It is policy.
State,
It,
It is policy, but it follows the state guidelines. We just
Yes.
okayed it in section 6. For
but it's
teachers.
state, there is no state policy. I'm not arguing
No,
about
I mean, it's in our
the,
policy, it's just referencing the state law.
yes.
So we do have policies for the teacher's position and for the director's position. And I guess.
directors are
instructional
only
assistants are
employees.
still too.
that's our only employees.
I'm saying that we have policies for teachers, instructional assistants, and for the director of schools.
I mean, that's why we hire a director. And, I mean, I don't understand how you can't put your faith in the director to hire the most qualified person, and why you would restrict it by putting it in board policy. Because that's what you're doing, is restricting who he can hire.
I think
I'm
you're setting a
with you.
standard. I think you're setting a
Absolutely,
standard.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Todd, but I think, I want to restrict who he hires.
Yeah, I think, Jason, you could relate better to that. Well, I hire you to build a house. You may have a certified electrician, he can do plumbing, but that's not going to satisfy the bank, that's not going to satisfy the building code inspectors.
Then why did
They
we
want
give this
somebody
man a
that's
job?
certified in each position, from what I understand, or better yet, a plumber that can do electrician work. But I'm just saying, it's pretty cut and dry that even most companies have restrictions for certain guidelines for administrative positions. And their board of directors oversee that. This is not, it's pretty simple, actually, I thought.
I don't
But
think.
maybe I was wrong.
Sorry, Dave.
Good.
I'm not taking anything away from Dr. Flannery or anybody else, but I want him to have to pick and choose from the very best.
I think
He-
this just
he
sets the
can't
floor.
with this.
Uh,
He cannot pick, it's limiting him to who he can pick. That's like I said, you can have nobody that meets the requirements for this. What are you gonna do, not fill the position? Or how's he gonna hire somebody when now he'd be going against board policy if he hired somebody that did not meet the job requirements here?
I just don't ever think he would.
Let me ask you this, why would you not want to hire somebody that meets that job, that thing?
You can't make people apply. What if nobody applies that meets every?
Would they not be somebody in college that would be coming out that would be good at I'm just saying, I don't really, I understand what you're saying, Todd, and I feel that we need to give him full, that's his job. But I want him to hire somebody that knows that job.
You don't think he's gonna do that? Because it falls back on him
I think he
if,
will.
if they're not doing their job.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, excuse me, it's not to restrict, it's not to restrict Dr. Flannery, it's not saying Dr. Flannery's inept. This is just a policy to guide the next director. Johnson City's Human Resources Director meets the position in every which way. I'm talking about for the city of Johnson City, their Human Resource Director. So, yeah, there's gonna be people that qualify, just like people that qualify that are CPAs. They're gonna meet the guidelines to work for auditing companies. And it's just that, like you said, we have guidelines for teachers and job description. But it was just a suggestion because there are lawsuits on the rise, and I guess nationwide, to do with human resources. And one of the things the attorney said, that attorneys on the opposing side will challenge the qualifications of the person sitting in that position. It's just cut and dry. Anyway,
Mr. McLean?
I'll do whatever the will of the board wants.
Mr. McLean?
Are you sure?
I hope.
Todd, I heard what you said. I heard what the others have said. This is a new standard for this position. We're losing a lady that's done an outstanding job. Let me go on record as saying that. Ever since I've been on this board. She's going to be hard to replace. The quality and the experience of work. This sets a new standard to give our director a guideline to shoot for that person that's going to go in this position. And if he can't find somebody that meets these, all he's got to do is come back to the board and ask for a waiver of this requirement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Did anybody have a motion?
Mitch has got his hand up too.
Well, let me get Mitch here. Mitch?
Oh, okay. Just sitting here and thinking and actually looking back at our board policy, and Dr. Keys, policy 5.104 talks about job descriptions and that the board shall approve the role, purpose, and function of each position. A copy of each job description should be provided to the employee. Copies of all job descriptions should be maintained in the director of school's office and should be used as guides in annual employee evaluation. So, I'm kind of like those that are questioning why we're putting these specific job duties and requirements in our board policy. Can you address that?
Well, it was just a recommendation from when at the attorney session, and theirs was to.
Hey, David, it was actually, that question was addressed to Dr. Keys.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I apologize, Dr. Keys.
No problem.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Meredith, I was asked to draft this based on Bradley County Schools policy because a request was made to our director.
What's he say?
Say that again.
So-
I'm sorry.
But I'm assuming we do have job descriptions in the director's office for all positions.
Yes, sir, and those were reviewed at our retreat in July.
And how does the human resources job description in the director's office differ from the one that's being presented today?
I do not have that in front of me now. Dr. Flannery may be able to speak to that, but I'm pretty sure it's very similar to the one you're looking at in the proposed policy.
Okay. All right. Thanks. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'll have to make the motion, we accept this and either move it forward to the second reading or.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Approve on first reading.
I'm sorry, you all have been cutting in and out. I couldn't hear the motion.
Approve it for the first reading.
Okay. All right, thank you. Oh, one other thing. Does that motion include that our current human resource director is grandfathered in?
Yes.
Okay.
In the June.
In the June.
Go ahead with what you need.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I guess my discussion would be, doesn't need to be in board policy.
Roll call vote, please.
Every board member needs to understand that the language of the policy we're voting on does not require any special certification, any special training, or any special degree. It simply says experience. And I don't want anybody coming back on me and saying, well, we said you had to go find a lawyer or something. You are not voting on special certification.
It's, my thing, it says education, bachelor's degree in job-related area.
And to me, I mean, a human resources director in education, an educator fits the bill.
With 3 years' experience in
In
human resources.
It says experience, not certification. And I'll just say it, from my point of view, I'd rather have a veteran educator than anybody else in this job.
Well,
That's all I need to say.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
No.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
I'd take exception of having an educator over anybody else. I think this is a position you need an HR person for, but I'm gonna vote no.
Mr. Irvin?
No. Motion passes. First reading.
Can we get a copy of the administrator's thing?
We'll
next
take
time?
a 10-minute break.
Damn.
Can we have a copy of the job description?
Next on the list is budget. And, I've been sitting and talking to Brad and Mr. Flannery and some board members and stuff. I got a little paper here I'd like for Brad to go over and see what your all's thought is about it
Where we at? On this one here?
on the budget.
The budget list right here on top.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna let Brad go over what he needs to do, Mr. Flannery.
Okay, well, let me first just go over the documents and what we have. So this one on the screen is, I call it our budget change list. You were familiar with this one from the last meeting. And before I get into those details, let me just get everything pulled up here and make sure Jennifer has everything up too. So the font, this screen's a little cut off, so let me make sure we can see it all. So these were the items that were going into the budget that were what's called must-have items. They're going to happen regardless of what we do. Of course, you do have the option of if there, what type of pay increase there is, and that would be the variance. So there's this top section, and then there's the bottom section that each of you voted on last time, one by one. This was what remains in the budget from your last time. You have the step-only column, which we know from the BEP component that we were shared, we have to give at least 0.25% raise to certified staff minimum, required to. Or that's what it calculates out to be. The requirement is $336,000 for the certified staff salary. But this column's a 0.5% raise. In between this, 0.25%, which is an option, is about 120,000 difference in between those two columns. Then this is 1% raise, and this is a 2% certified staff only. It was just a request that was on there before. So let me stop with this page right now, and we'll get just Jennifer to make sure the other pages, make sure we know that they're there. There's going to be 3 or 4 documents on BOE Connect called the budget narrative. I'll just, even if Jennifer doesn't pull those up, I'll just pull this. This is the Excel version of that. And let me see if we can get it to where it's visible here. This will change depending on what you do tonight. But I would have a narrative that I would take to the commission, or me and Dr. Flannery would, and where it's all 100%. Let me go down to 50. Yep. So basically, this is just a summary of what the budget is, of whatever's approved. You'll have revenue items up top. The revenue is projected, the fund balance used, total funds available, and any shortfall here with the expense up top. Now this one is step increase only. And
From the step increase only.
that's what this one is. We have one down here for the 0.5%, 1%, and 2% certified only, with again, keeping in mind if you went with 0.25%, it's about 120,000 difference. So I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what we're looking at first before we actually get started into your decisions or anything. And then we'll have the actual template that's on BOE Connect. That's the budget draft itself. That's the detailed line by line. And this one would be, it would say revised, Jennifer, and it would say FY21 budget draft 1. This is, I'm just letting you know it's on BOE Connect if you haven't seen it yet. But this is the actual line-by-line detail with the same choices, with again the 0.25%, which isn't listed here, but if you did go with that, it's give or take a couple $1,000s, it's within $120,000 difference. So where we are right now, based off of, and there's actually been a few moving parts. Before I even get into that, let me show you the moving parts. Since the last meeting, there's been a couple of things change. First, I'm going to go back to the budget change, Jennifer, the first one. First, there has been a couple of changes here. The university school, last time we were estimating a 265 increase. Me and Mr. Whitaker have got together on this and done some more detailed calculation. It's a very extensive calculation that Mr. Whitaker leads on, actually. But we do feel instead of 265, we can knock that down to 195. That's an increase from what we are this year. So that did save by about 60,000. The other things, the diesel fuel, I talked with the transportation supervisor originally when we met. He just, there wasn't a comfort level there of really lowering the diesel fuel expense until he really saw the actual numbers. But looking at where we're tracking, or were tracking, and what we think we would have spent had school not have closed, we think lowering that by 50,000, we could handle that safely. If it ends up being more than that next year, then we'll lower it again next year. But to go more than that is just a guessing game right now. So those are two things that have been lowered. Now, if you all checked your emails today, you'll know I had to revise these budget documents today from last night because we did get the BP estimate. It did come in 60,000 less for May than it was in April. So that's factored into the new budget documents. The other thing is this electric bus. I didn't have the expense in the original budget. I also did not have part of the revenue in the original budget you saw. So I've added increased the revenue by the $219,250. That's the full potential we can get for the grant. I added the expense line item, that's on your budget change sheet. These three items are already in your fund balance that are the other component of paying for that bus. So that added together is about $205,000. So we had a total bus last year we got $75,000 for, we did not replace. That went into the fund balance. I was told that would go towards the electric bus. We have received a $30 donation from Bright Ridge for the electric bus, a $100,000 donation from the TVA just within the last 30 days for the electric bus. All of those amounts are sitting in the fund balance now. So that's money that's here. We know that it could be up to $219,250 for this grant. We already have paperwork on, or 50%. So if 50% of the bus is $200,000, that's all that grant covers. It'll pay up to 50%. So, needless to say, the electric bus is fully funded. That expense has been added to this budget as well, which you'll see tonight. So, those are some of the moving parts since the last meeting. Did you have a question, Chad? I'm sorry.
That first page that you were on, down there at the bottom, the 2.149096, 2.383422, all the way to the first page that you showed us right there that had kind of the.
That would be the budget
Yes, sir.
change.
That's it.
Document, yes.
Now, all the way, you scroll all the way to the bottom,
Yes.
that's what's gonna come out of fund balance, correct? Down there at the very bottom?
Not out of fund balance, not necessarily out of fund balance. That's new expenses from last year that's documented on here. So for example, step only, we know we can't go with step only, but let's just use that. We're adding $772,000 net in expenses regardless. Even if you don't budget for it, we're still gonna be charged that. This is the additional items that were optional you've already voted on from the last meeting that would be added, and these, starting with the 737 for the textbooks, of course, we know 519,000 of that's already accounted for. That's an additional 1.376 added with that 772. That's new expense of 2.149 million. So that doesn't mean that's going to come out of fund balance. I mean, yeah, it will, because we got $3 million budgeted for fund coming out of fund balance on what I'm showing you tonight. You can change that as a board, but that I'm just trying to say that doesn't necessarily mean that that's all coming out of fund balance, even though in the end it will. But 50% columns here. Now that bus expense, even though I put neutral on fund balance, and I've just explained to you why it's neutral on fund balance, it got put into this line here, 72,710, 729, and I earmarked it with a suffix of -100 because the 72,717, 729 line is where all the vehicles are purchased out of for the school. I wanted to separate the bus, so I put that -100 on the end. The bus is the only thing that'll come out of that one. The auditors allowed me to do that because it's still 727,710, 72,710, that's 729, but that 100 just delineates it a little more, so, but that's why there's no cost there, because it's already paid for, with funds set aside, or with the funding's in line for it. So, I guess with that all being said, just going back to this page, and then I'll go off of this. This is the E-rate settlement, 297. The BEP growth funds, we've got half of that 222. We'll get the other half in June. That's what we had talked about last time, going towards those textbooks, that big 700,000 price tag. That's 519,000. You've already got, now that's increased the fund balance for now. So the fund balance pull from next year will be higher than this year, but $724,000 of, like, for example, the $3 million you'll see tonight, $724,000 of that is unbudgeted revenue we got, so it'll offset some of that, you know. So I just wanted to point that out before we go forward.
Those are
Mr.
one-time
Flannery,
expenses.
what is the books that we're purchasing? What books?
English language arts,
English?
K through 12.
Okay.
And Ms. Bellinger, I did get some clarification. K through 4 it is a benchmark series, and then 5 through 12 it is Pearson.
5 through 12, yes,
So
okay. I
when
thought
they
it was
said
6
benchmark
through-
Pearson, all is the same thing. It's
Right.
not. It's two different series.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Hey, Brad, before you get started, going back to the electric bus, we've already received the grant funds, right?
no, we have not. This one's coming through the school system, not the county. And we've got a contract on those funds, but we don't have the funds in the bank right now.
So we haven't received any of the grant funding for the
Not
electric bus.
Not the 219. We've got a commitment letter, and we've got the document showing we're going to get it, but the 219,000 is not sitting in our bank account right now.
Okay. So when do we expect to receive, when's the bus expected to be delivered?
We can't order it until we get those funds in
No,
hand.
it's deeper than that. Whatever the president of Canada is, what do they call the guy, the prime minister, has shut down the factory where the bus is being manufactured.
Oh, okay. I thought it was already in process and delivery was fairly imminent.
No, it's not been
Okay.
manufactured.
All right, never mind.
Okay, so where we are, I guess it'd be good to point out where we actually are right now, and I'm going to go back to this budget narrative page. I know Dr. Flannery had notified you officially that when we took the last budget to the county, we were told no extra funds, so they're not going to pay any of the shortfalls that we have in our budget. So we, in essence, we're getting the same revenue for sales tax, property tax, the other dozen or so revenue sources we get from the county as we did last year, but nothing else. So in other words, that we're told not to come back and ask them for additional money. It'll get rejected. So where we are setting right now, we know we have to go a little more than the step because of that requirement on BEP for certified staff. But aside from that, we're 197,000 short with pulling budgeted $3 million from the fund balance at step only. To go to a 0.5% raise, that becomes 432,000. So we need to find 432,000 tonight if you as a board decide to leave that $3 million as far as budgeting that to pull from the fund balance next year if needed. Obviously, we hope it's not needed. We'll try to manage expenses to where it's not needed, but if you choose to leave that at $3 million, then the 432 is what we've got to find tonight. If you go up to a 1% raise, that number then becomes 682,000. Everything else being equal. So that gives you an idea of what our goal is tonight. We've got to get this covered, whether it's a 1% raise at 682, 0.5% raise at 432. With this step only, again, at least 0.25% for certified staff. If you went all system employees, then 120,000 would be added to that. You'd have to come up with 317.
But the other two numbers are all staff.
Yes, all staff.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the 120 in addition to that would be all staff too at 0.25%, so that would become 317,000 and some change if it's 0.25% raise. So we'll start right here, I guess, and I guess at this point go back to the budget change document. Your items that you have that, I mean, of course you decide on where you want the raise to be. And then these are the items you would have to play with. I shouldn't say play with, but to manipulate, which Keith had asked me to go over something that he had came in and talked to me about, which I'll be glad to do that in just a second. So you've got which raise to consider, which of these items to keep or not keep. The only other option is to increase that fund balance, budgeted fund balance pool to above $3 million.
I have a question. I thought that we went with these therapists. I thought we went with one each of those.
This
One was funded.
So one's funded. It does say two, but if you look at the expense, it's only funding one because one of those she felt she could fund out of federal funds. So even though there is a two there, I guess I should change that to a one. It would be hiring two, but one of them's funded out of federal funds. So there's no effect on the general budget. But when you look at the expense, 55,000 is an estimated gross salary, estimated fixed cost would be the 19. So total estimated cost is roughly 75 for one position.
So the one right ahead of it, the behavioral therapist is half funded by federal?
It's half, she's got half room in her general fund for that. And that's the one that Dr. Myers said if she can only get one position, that's the one she needs, is that ABA behavioral therapist.
But she doesn't need us to match the funds for the behavioral psychologist, therapist?
Well, we voted for both of them the last time, but one of them was gonna be paid for.
Okay.
The way I wrote down, I mean, that's what I thought.
Okay, well, I thought you said we were just gonna do one of each, but that makes sense if one of them was coming out of.
Yeah. So what Mr. Urban, I guess, had asked me to go over that he brought in and had talked about, and I'll just simply kind of highlight these, or, well, he talked about a proposal as leaving the books like you all decided, and then leaving this position in as far as the ABA behavioral health, removing these, I'll just bold those for a moment, removing the 80,000 Unified Power School, and then on the
Hey Brad, I can't see your screen. You're gonna have to, I'm sorry, could you repeat those that?
Sure, man, sure.
Sorry.
His proposal was to, on the optional items, remove where it says two behavioral psych therapists.
Okay.
The cost will be $55,000 and $19,656. Then below that, one social emotional psychiatrist, same thing, remove that, $55,000 and $19,656. Then going down to the uniform class power school, $80,000, removing that. And then dropping the $250 for CTE to $50,000. And the rest he was leaving. He was leaving the assistant principal, leaving the Get More Math, and leaving this 45 for CTE teacher supplies, CTE equipment, leaving the 5, but then dropping that to 50. Now, I can add this up, but off the top of my head, that's around 480 that does save you. And what our target was in this scenario, this is now if you do a 0.5% raise, the target was eliminating 432. So you've actually eliminated slightly more than that if you do a 0.5% raise. Maybe you add 50 back to the CTE and go 100,000 in that proposal. That was what Mr. Urban had asked me to just throw out there for him as he came in and discussed that earlier, I guess, with Dr. Flannery and myself.
All right, so where does that leave us with the dollar amount from fund balance?
That would be leaving it at $3 million pulling from fund balance, if it's needed. You'd be budgeting you'll be budgeting the 3. And I'm gonna double check the math on this. Manipulating this in this, on this screen's a little tricky. And then in that if in the original proposal, it was lowering that to 50, so you're taking another 200 off. So 429, actually. Let me double check again the math on that. But, that's 49. Drop that to 50, so you're saving 2. Okay. So that saves you 429. That does meet, within just some change, that does meet if you did a 0.5% raise, because we needed 432, so the fund balance pool might be 3,002,000. That's one option that you could do. Now, if it's you as the board to choose if you leave that at 3 million. You know, if you go to 33,100,000, if you voted to do that, then that would be 100,000 more in the CTE you could put. But that's your decision, of course.
How much?
So do you feel comfortable with that, Brad?
Only on a one-year basis, and only because we have that 700,000 that's went in, that was unbudgeted revenue, that's increased our fund balance this year. Now, we still don't know where it's gonna, turn out, because we have absorbed we're absorbing 270,000 of dietary expense. We don't know where the sales tax is gonna hit, how bad it's gonna hit us for possibly May, but definitely in June. So we don't know that.
Well, I wish we could give our employees more, but I don't see, especially when our governor said he wanted to give teachers 4% originally, but I don't think this year we're gonna be able to go much more than a half, realistically.
Yeah, to go an extra, up to a full percentage, roughly 240,000 more, do that for another 0.5% for everybody. Chad?
How much is in fund balance?
8 million was what was in the audit report at the end of last year. I'm anticipating that, in further and analyzing it, again, the 270s unbudgeted in dietary, it's going to depend on how bad sales tax hits us at the end in May and June especially. It's not a question of if, it's how much. But we were running ahead this year, up until COVID. So I think there's still a good chance that we're going to at least hold that at this point. Had it not been for COVID, I would be pretty confident and we would have had a good increase again this year. But with COVID and not knowing where the sales tax is, I think it's safe to say we should be able to hold where we're at or very close. That's why I say with a 1 year only, with some of these one-time expenses, I think we could budget that for 1 year. Just knowing next year we'll have to really reevaluate where we are.
So Brad, you said you think we can hold where we are. You feel pretty confident about that, depending on May and June sales tax. So where are we?
Well, it's normal fluctuation through the year, like right
No,
now.
I mean, where are we year to date, and where do you expect us to be then at the end of the year? How much are we going to add to the 8 million, or how much are we going to subtract from it?
Right now I'm saying I believe we can hold that, come in right around where the 8 million is.
You think we're going to break even?
I do think we're going to likely break even because we were tracking ahead, meaning if it wasn't for COVID, I think there was a good chance we would add at least another 500,000, maybe more. I don't think we would have to tap into the fund balance. But with COVID now, it's just unknown. And we could come in a little under 8 if the sales tax hits us really hard in June, because it's just unknown.
Right.
But
Okay.
assuming
Is this got our 250 in there?
this dropped to 250 just dropped to 250 to 50 in this proposal.
It's actually got
So
59.50.
what I said is, if you as a board voted to increase the fund, to go 3.1 million, then you'd add another 100 back. That would be your decision as a board.
This has the 1% or 0.5%?
0.5%.
0.5%.
How much extra would it be to do the 1%? 200?
To about 240,000.
140.
we're at
3 million right now is what's on these sheets to pull from fund balance,
Now,
if needed.
when we left here last time with the 250 for CTE, we was at what?
3.5 is what we went and asked the county to pay half of that.
Yeah.
So you can take it, I mean, you as a board can put that where you want it.
So that was with 1% raise, 250 to CTE, and everything else we've already talked about.
Yeah, not counting some of the moving parts that I discussed at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah.
Now, this is actually, Jason, pulling out some of those positions too in this proposal. This was pulling out the behavioral health, the social emotional, the 80,000 for Power School, and dropping that 250 down to 50 in what Keith had went over.
So if we left those out, added the 250, which would be how much difference?
Taking it back to 250,
Taking it
then you
back
go
to
add 200,000 to what I just told you, so that'd be
Plus-
about 3.2 million from fund
Plus
balance.
another 250 for 1% raise.
Yes, if you take it to, yeah, it'd be 240-ish, yes. So then
Exactly.
you'd be taking the fund balance, budgeting it to about 3.5 again.
No bid, because the motion was for half.
Yeah, the county made it clear they're not, basically, it's a waste of time to go ask them to.
So we feel, Dr. Flannery and his staff feels that all that stuff's necessary. That's why we got it on there, I guess, correct? Well, I like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Jason?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Brad, got a question. And Dr. Flannery may need to address this, but I just want to be sure that I'm clear when I'm looking at our budgeted expenses, your 72230 accounts.
I'll need to go there, Mitch, give me a second to get that up.
Vocational. What about, that's vocational support, what are we talking about?
What are you talking about, Mitch?
Well, I think I just answered my own question. Never mind.
You're good.
I found what I was looking for. I was missing something.
I think you hit anything there.
Can we proceed?
David?
Just want to clarify, what is the percent raise you're proposing?
0.5%.
What Keith came to me with was a 0.5%.
That's for everyone, right?
Yeah. Todd?
Before Jason makes a motion.
It's gonna happen.
I know, but I'd like to see us work off the 1% and maybe dwindle down some of these things a little bit. Personally, that's 1% raise and then dwindle down some of this stuff to get there.
Okay.
Mr. Fleener?
Let me ask you a question before Jason says what he's wanting to say.
I ain't looking at Jason.
How much money would we save if we don't give dietary the 1%? Because, I mean, I know there's an expense that if we give them the 1% on top of their 5%, that,
It's very small, actually.
Okay.
It's something like $15,000. I mean, it's not a lot. Actually, when I go to this budget document, I can show you where that's at.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and it
Because
doesn't matter.
their payroll for the whole year is, it's a little over $1 million.
it'd just be nice if
Here
we
it
could
is.
separate that instead of add that to the 5% raise that we've done 2 years in a
Right
row.
here, Chad. Yeah, I was real close. 1% for dietaries, $12,916.
$12,916.
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, I want to say this. There's a percentage of them people plus some other people that we went to the county commission to ask for money to bring them up to $10 an hour. And hopefully, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Flannery, but that's going to get us close to having everybody $10 an hour.
Not as close as I had thought earlier today. Price tag on that, if it's just raising those people that are below about 70,000 a complete adjustment of the salary schedule will be over 300,000. I'd have thought it'd been a lot closer, but it's not.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. So we're getting books from two different companies. To be able to shave some off of that, could we do the 5 through 8 books and wait on the K through 4? Because my understanding, and I've tried to look it up, and there's not a textbook with this K through 4. I'm not sure.
Good things about it either.
Well, I'm not sure what we're paying for, but it doesn't look like there's not a textbook. And so I'm a little confused on what we're purchasing there when, I'm looking up.
How
up
much
things.
is the K through 4?
So I just wondered if that would help.
I don't know how to break it out.
Is it like a digital type thing that you
A
print
lot
it?
of it is, I know that. But what I know about it is the textbook adoption committee unanimously endorsed both series.
Is that because they wanted something, or?
The comments I heard from, and please, I'm a high school educator. I don't know how to teach 6-year-olds to read. Comments I heard from them that what they adopted was far and away the best thing available among the state adoptions this year.
I was just trying to see if that was an option.
All right, Jason, I wanna hear what you got to say.
You ready?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept this budget that Dr. Flannery and his staff has put forward with an addition of the additional $200,000 for the CTE, and I wanna make it a 1% raise to all staff.
It takes it up to 3.5 million.
We got 8 million in the bank and that, honey, what are you gonna do with it?
Well, if, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Second.
For emergencies.
Second. If he made the motion, you need a second, right?
Yeah. Discussion.
Mr. Day, your difficulty is going to come in two different things you got to consider. Number one, how the sales tax comes in the rest of the year, and some of this is reoccurring money.
Yep.
Okay, so if you don't have reoccurring revenue to cover some of it next year, and you actually have to use 3.5 of that $8 million, you're gonna be in trouble next year.
Mr. Hale told me I was gonna have 8 million again next year. Didn't you, Brad?
I believe that at the end of this audit year, we should maintain
I
that
don't see a
8.
problem. Still have $5.5 million, $4.5 million in the bank.
Of course, if that happens next year, then you've got a different discussion with next year's budget, because
We can do that next year.
you certainly couldn't budget $3.5 million next year if we're down to.
Well, I mean, you're talking about $200,000, really.
You're taking the 8 million, we're saying we're gonna need to use 3.5 million.
Mhm.
And if we use that 3.5 million, then that 8 million that we're sitting on is gonna turn in to 4.5 million.
That's right.
And then what are we gonna do if student enrollment goes down because of all this COVID mess, and we lose kids?
We won't need as much staff, and we'll
Well,
save money
you-
next year.
I
I mean, we gotta take it a year at a time.
I'm gonna be partial with my fund balance. I wanna hold on to my fund balance as much as possible.
I wanna be proactive in the system.
Chad?
I do like the 200,000. I really like to see, and I'd like to, I see Crystal's on here with, or Miss Fink's on here with us.
That's
Has
what
she-
her face looks like right now anyway. She's smiling.
Right.
Here it
Has
is.
she got something to tell us about the 250?
Yeah, I thought you did the motion not include 200,
No, he added 200
He
back,
changed
so it's
it.
250.
He changed it, added 200 back to it.
$250,000.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the industry-based needs assessment that you put together, and it's comprehensive for both high schools. I do have some experience here, and it's realistic. I would offer this, Mr. Chairman, if you would allow me.
Yeah.
This is discretionary funds. We could hold this money until January the 1st, see where sales tax happens for the first semester. You put it in the budget, but we hang on to it. And if things hold pretty good, then we'll buy this stuff. If it goes south,
The 200,000.
it's $250,000.
The 250,000 he's talking about.
I mean, I'd just like to see let's make a difference. We've been talking, I know I've been on board for 2 years now, and we went to these things about CTE and how we need to change the oil and everything, and we need to do something. This is actually putting teeth where we said we were gonna do something.
Yeah, but we've not went through what we went through in the last.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen
We
tomorrow.
don't. We
I
don't.
mean, you know what I'm saying? So, I'd like to see us, I'd like to see us try and see what happens with this expenditures.
Well, you're putting everybody,
Oh.
you're putting everything that was on the list back on the list, and we're gonna pay for it out of fund balance.
He said no, he wanted to take off those 2 behavioral positions.
No, he said,
No, he said-
Jason's notion
No,
was to put everything that Mr. Flannery said.
And those wasn't on.
He
What Brad
said,
just talked about.
he said to take off the parish school and the 2 behavior things.
What me and you talking about?
What you had, Keith, was taken off the behavioral side, social emotional, and the power street. And then in your proposal, you're dropping the 250 to 50, but Jason, you went back up to 250.
I dropped everything on there, but I want 250.
So he's
And a
leaving.
1% raise.
And a
He's
1%.
leaving.
And a 1% raise.
Yeah.
I'll negotiate down, but I mean, I just think.
Well, I have a motion and a second. We're still in discussion, Chad.
Can we see us a little bit more right here? I'd like to see what that totals up to be.
Crystal told me that this is about 216 that she has on this list. This is what I got from Crystal earlier. I guess you have this, Dr. Flannery, is that?
I do, and I concur. This is a good list. That'll get kids jobs right there. And then that'll support industry certification.
And your comment, Mr. Flannery, a minute ago was to hold on till
We
December.
could, if it's the board's wish, that we don't have to spend a dime of that $250,000 until, let's say, 1/1/21 to see where sales tax goes. If it looks strong and Brad says okay, then we'll pull it, because most of it's going to have to be bid anyway, 60-day process.
I mean, if we done this right now, we approved this right now, could we get this in before the end of the year, or before the first of the year?
Yeah, I mean, if we started on July the 1st,
But only thing I'm afraid, Dr. Flannery, if you wait till 1/1, then you wouldn't actually get that stuff in the spring break, because some of this
That's true.
installation is gonna be,
that is true.
and then you're gonna have to get somebody, to learn how to use it.
You take that $20,000 milling machine, we'll have to pay somebody to haul it in here. We'll
Right.
have to pay somebody to take it off the truck.
But the only thing I'm afraid of is there's a year worth of instruction that we won't get, we won't know what we
That is
done.
true.
I mean, that's what I was,
You're right, and the buffer is, then we just see what sales tax will be. I mean, yes.
right.
Where's the computers at for graphic arts that,
He told us he wanted that numbers down there. Remember, he said he needed like 16 new computers?
the apples, the Macs?
That, I believe, is in this year's Perkins plan.
It's in this year's what?
Perkins plan, and the board never sees that. That goes straight to Washington.
It's in Perkins plan.
Yeah.
State money, state money.
Now,
Federal.
money.
So if he don't get it, we got extra money in here to give it to him.
That comes through Perkins, so we get that.
You gotta spend that money somewhere.
What's the total?
I like to say a welding program over there, Daniel
Doing
Boone.
what he said, it'd be right at 3.5, give or take. I'd have to get the exact number
Well,
on
if
it,
you
but
want to
it'd
do
be
it in
roughly
bodybuilding,
just right at
weightlifting.
Yeah.
3.5.
No, but he got furniture, they replaced it with.
Mr. Gainer?
I don't mind the motion, but I do think we should dwindle it down to close to that 3 million as possible, because that's where your finance guy is comfortable at 3 million. So that's where I'd like to see us try to dwindle it down.
Suggestions?
can I,
That's just
100.
That's just my
Amend it.
opinion. No, I'm not.
Cleaner?
only thing I've had to say that, Mr. Gainer's, I mean, that 250 is gonna make a difference, and I think some of this other stuff we really need to make a difference.
Well, I'd like
I mean-
to think everything on the list will, but, I mean, that's why it's on there.
Hey, Brad,
Yes, Mitch.
one little detail question, I guess. We've got 737,000 in new items for textbooks, but looking at 71100,449, you're budgeted 885,000 for textbooks.
That's correct.
What's the difference?
Because you've already got about 140 or 150,000 in there in the budget from this year. If you'll go to the budget.
Yeah,
for FY19.
right, I see that, but I mean, I understood that our textbooks were gonna cost us $737,
Right.
so why isn't the 737 the budgeted expense for FY21?
737 is not the exact amount of the full budget. You're still gonna have budgeted funds that are carrying over from this year for additional items.
So our English language
Oh,
arts
excuse me.
are gonna cost us 885,000?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me, yes, that's what I'm explaining. The
Okay.
actual cost was up around 880, but we already had budgeted funds. I think it was 147.
Okay.
That's correct. It took me a second to remember that, but
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Okay, I
Partially
have,
funded by E-rate, some of the E-rate money we got back.
Yeah, that's right.
I have a motion and a second for, everything that Brad was talking about, or Jason was talking about, plus a 1% raise.
Did you give us a grand total, Brian?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of.
Okay.
Everybody will know
Here.
before we vote.
I mean, it's roughly what you took off, if we're keeping the 250 in there, you took off 229,000, which means, give me a second.
While you're doing that, on that schedule right there, your general fund budget changes, just to be, so I'm clear what Jason's proposing, is that everything down in the optional comes out except for textbooks and a dollar amount for CTE?
No, so what remains in there, Mitch, is the textbooks,
Okay.
the assistant principal, the Get More
Good.
Math, and then the 2 CTE lines, teacher supplies and equipment, those 4,500 and 5,000, and then maintaining 250 for CTE additional program. All that remains. So really, you just have
Five line items.
three items coming out: the classroom, power school, and then the behavioral psych and social emotional psych. So the fund balance, and again, I'll plug it in, but this, you're going to be pulling from fund balance about 3,453,000. That's where this is going to come in.
I got a question.
That's what I say.
No problem. If we're giving 250 to CTE, why is there gonna
It'll be
be
a challenge for me to maintain that 8 million next year.
CTE equipment and CTE?
I'm gonna try.
supplies list?
I'm gonna try.
Hey, I know where you can find a
So
million.
why don't we pull
Yeah.
those?
Where's that?
I mean, I know it's a small amount.
Huh?
That little
Where at,
amount
bud?
came from my original budget.
Well,
The $250,000 is.
y'all won't like hearing it.
Oh, don't say it.
So you can just add the two together, because it's going on 713 and 731.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Chad, I'm fixing to call for a vote on this.
Can I make an amendment?
You second it, yeah.
Yes.
Make an amendment.
I'd like to make an amendment and add the Power School on there. Because the Power School is listed 3 out of 5 places on our strategic 5-year plan.
I'll second.
If we don't believe in it, then why did we approve our 5-year plan?
Well, I like that, Chad.
So,
I just think that's a luxury this year.
oh, but that's in our 5-year plan.
I know, but that piece is that piece of
4
Power
years left.
School is a luxury.
We're going to the next level,
Mr.
man.
Ganger, you had something?
Well, I was just gonna make a statement. If we're giving 250,000 to CTE, and I know it's a small amount, but we can take the supplies and the equipment for CTE out.
How much that
That's-
Power School?
That's 9,000.
90.
90? I can't see that.
You're correct.
I can't see the line, it's too small.
You're correct though, Todd, it's 45 and then 5, so it's 9,500 that you're saying you
Okay.
could take out.
Well, they're still gonna need their supplies to run their equipment.
They got $250,000.
Hey.
That's for new equipment.
That's for stuff, that's not for supplies.
The new
You
supplies.
can take the
goes to
equipment
every-
out, you can take the $5,000 for the equipment
just
out.
goes to 3
You can take the $5,000 for equipment out, but they still gotta have their supplies.
We got to work out on that.
So if you do the extra 80, then the estimate's gonna be 3,533,000 budgeted to pull from fund balance next year.
Well, we ain't gonna get no money from the commission, you said.
Twice they
And
told us
probably
that.
if you ask me later in the year if there's money to fund anything, there probably won't be.
That's okay.
So,
We're
you know,
getting
for the
around
next
that.
12 months.
Well, I have a motion and amendment.
It's like that every year.
I mean, a motion, all right, I have an amendment to the motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Second it.
Who
David
did?
or
Mitch.
Mitch?
Mitch,
Okay.
okay.
Can you read the amendment, please?
The amendment is to pay for the $80,000 for the
Power School.
Power School. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan?
No.
Mr. Day?
Is this on the amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
No.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
No.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
No.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
I'm gonna vote no.
5 more years, Chad.
Well,
No,
I'd really, we need to work on our 5-year plan, because that ain't worth the paper it's wrote on.
well,
How often do you read the 5-year plan?
Well, why did we take so much time doing it? I mean, I hate we waste everybody's
I
time.
understand what you're saying, Chad, but I'm a conservative right
Now,
now.
wait a minute.
We should have saved that paper, we
I
could
am
have saved
saying
some money
this.
right
I
there.
was only saying a 0.5% raise, and you're putting a percent out there, and I know they need it, I know they deserve it, but.
Chad, I believe you're learning that budget controls a lot of different issues.
I just.
I mean, no, if we believe in something and we go with something, and we say we're for something, and people spend all the time putting it together, and then we turn around and every year we look, because this is the second time I've looked at Power School, and it's the first thing we don't care to write
We've added
off.
several components to it over the years.
We'll take $80,000 out of the CTE.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I call for the question on the main
Okay.
motion.
I have a motion and a second on 1% raise and everything on the list that we talked about. Assistant principal at Boones Creek. Read that.
Okay, what's still in there is the textbooks, assistant principal at Boones Creek to get more math, CTE supplies at 4,500, CTE equipment at 5,000, and CTE additional program funding for 250,000. Bring an estimated fund balance pool, our budget from fund balance 3,453,220.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
No.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
No.
Mr. Hammond?
No.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
No.
Sorry, Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Honey, we ain't asked no.
We're not asking anybody.
5-4 pass.
5-4 pass.
Yeah.
I probably messed up on procedure here, but I would like for us to make sure that the 1,000 or 1% doesn't add to dietary to make them a 6% raise and everybody else gets 1%
You
raise.
done. It didn't. You can't do that.
I can't do it now.
No.
I can change this budget tomorrow though in a meeting.
Wasn't this 1% raise for those employees in the general purpose school fund? Not dietary fund?
Unless you as a board specify, it does cover dietary employees unless you as a board specify.
That is something.
So you've got the raise built into this budget for dietary?
Yes, it's just under 13,000 for 1%.
So,
Where is it on what line item do you have it in?
Go down to the food service section, I'll tell you in just a few seconds, Mitch.
I'm not disputing, but there's,
I would have thought it had been part of the budget. It would have had been an amendment to the motion, and it wasn't.
we're not adjourned yet, so there was,
But we done passed.
Okay, Mitch, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, it's, number 73-100, 189. You will go over to the 1% column. Now, you know I'm colorblind, but I think it's it's column P, it's green, I think it's green. But you'll see a number that's 12,916. That's one per page, and that just corrected me. So, but 12,916 is where you'll
I
find that
don't,
amount.
in the 1% column under 73-100,
Yes, number 189. We fund that for the first year, and then dietary picks that 1% up for the next year's budget, but the general fund funds the first year's budget.
Then you could move to reconsider the motion.
I can't just make another
that
motion to say you take off
my
the,
understanding of the motion
1%
was
raise.
that we weren't increasing dietary another 1%. So I'm gonna change my vote, and I think I can do that, Mr. Parliamentarian.
You'll wait just a minute, I think they're trying to figure it
Hold
out.
on, they're talking over there, Mitch, hold on.
I suppose there's nothing preventing you from doing that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to take,
Mitch wants to know if he can change his vote.
Well, just let Chad, they're on the same page.
Chad's still amended, I think, Mitch, so,
I'd like to,
I don't know, but.
Well,
yes.
we've
Or
done
that's what I'm-
passed a budget.
And I'm fine with it,
1% raise to everybody.
on top of 5% that you're already giving dietary.
Yeah, but Keith, that's not, I mean, if we wanna give 1% to dietary and take away the 4, I'm all for that. Then everybody's got 1%. Now it's 6 and 1, and I don't like that. And I'm not for that, and I voted against it last time.
Well, I mean,
What can I take out?
So I'm changing my vote on this.
Wait just a minute, Mitch.
I'm voting no.
Wait just a minute, Mitch.
So it didn't pass.
I'm gonna make a motion, if you'll allow it, or I'll wanna reopen the budget up for the nutrition department, one or the other. Cause we can do that, can't we? So, which one do you want me to do?
it don't matter, just go right ahead.
Well, I'd like to bring up the nutrition budget and take away the 5% raise. And they get a 1% raise just like everybody else. I mean, that to me is fair.
And not give them 4,
They'd get one.
just one period.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Everybody gets a 1% raise.
And that way we're not locking horns against,
You've already given it to them weeks ago.
Giving it to them.
no, it doesn't start until next year.
Yeah, but it's already been voted on, it's on the books, that it's gonna happen.
But I don't think it's fair that we give one employee a 5% raise, and then we turn around and we give everybody a 1% raise, and it's not the same as far as across the school board. Do you understand what I'm saying on
I
that?
do too, I
Well,
understand exactly.
that's when I said a little while ago, that maybe we need, instead of doing the raises or whatever, give everybody that's not getting $10 an hour, bring everybody up that's $10 an hour.
Well, I don't like how, I just don't understand why we do the dietary. I know it comes out of a different pot, and I'm not blaming Brad on this, but I don't like how we approved a 5% raise on them, and didn't we approve a 2% raise for the teachers? Well, they teachers and everybody else besides the dietary, and it come back on us, but yet we can't change what we said for dietary? I mean, we got custodians, yard maintenance workers, and all these people that are not getting the 1% raise, but yet, if
Why
you
ain't
got
they
a job
getting a
over,
1% raise?
they get a 1% raise.
Yeah,
That's it.
You said they
But if
would.
they go, and they go right in next door to the cafeteria, and they got a 6% raise, and they work for the same county system, and yet we're sitting right here and we're saying, well, you can't change it because that's fair. We don't want to do that. I mean, if we're going to be fair, to me, everybody gets a 1% raise. So I'd like to take that 5% raise off dietary if I can make it a motion.
Mr. Ganger, you had a comment?
Well, Chad, I understand what you're saying, but one, we did already give it to them, and two, it does come out of a different fund, and if you go back, I don't know, Mr. McLean probably knows how many years ago they were losing money, Keith knows, and we were, having to bail them out, and they bring Miss Kite in, and she's got the cafeteria budget good now, to the good. It's worked hard. Those people have worked hard
Yeah.
to make it very efficient. It's coming out of their own budget. All right, if we had it in the budget to give these teachers and custodians, everybody 5%, and they didn't have it, you know what
But
would
who's-
happen? We'd be giving the custodians and the teachers and everybody 5%, and the cafeteria wouldn't be getting it. I mean,
So, but when did we start picking and choosing? Because we don't do that in everybody
we only
else.
picked and choose because Ms. Kite came to us and said she wanted to give back to her employees. And they had worked hard. I don't know how long she's been here, 3 years, 4 years, I don't know. And had established a good budget.
I'm just saying the power board, you would flip your lid, just like Eastman, if we turned around and said, hey, you know, if you worked over at the cafeteria, you're getting 5% raise. Now 6, because we give everybody else 1%
I'll
raise.
break some news to you. Inside employees and outside employees are different. Inside can get a different raise than the outside. It is the way it is.
But these are all working for one system.
And we're all working for Bright Ridge.
If you go look at the budget book we were given last year and look at the scale, you'll understand that we were trying to enhance the level of pay that those people receive and make it a little more competitive with what some of the other systems are doing for the same category of worker.
And then we give them another 2% raise on top of that. Did we not?
I have no problem with us not giving them that 1% that everyone else is getting. I do have a problem with taking 5% away that you already gave them.
Well, let's just take,
And, I mean, that's just me.
Take the one
Vote on
away.
it and
Make a motion and take the one away. And let it cover everybody but dietary. If that's what you
Mr.
want to do.
Hammonds?
Well, I was just gonna, I think Mr. McLean brought it up. We've had certain positions brought to us in the last 2 years to raise their pay. But I have to agree with Todd. We've already told these people they're gonna get a percentage raise and we're gonna take it away from them. I have a real problem with that. But I agree with what everybody's saying. And God knows, everybody knows, I've proven, I want everybody in this system to get a raise. But at one point in time, 1 year, I'd like to see us concentrate on the teachers and administrators because I feel like we're backpedaling as far as the system where teacher pay and principal pay is. And I may get shoved out of here, I don't know, but and that's for future because right now we're passing this. But the real problem is we're in unknown territory and we're getting ready to say we're going to use $3 to $3.5 million out of our fund balance. And that's kind of concerning to me. But I just wanted to state that.
Okay. I have a motion. Did I have a second?
I second.
Your motion is what, Mr. Fleener?
to take away 5% raise and everybody gets 1
Okay,
from dietary.
from dietary.
roll call vote, please.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
No.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
No.
Mr. Hammond?
No.
Mr. McLean?
No.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
No.
Ms. Buchanan?
No.
Hey, I make your motion to take the 1% away since they get to keep their 5.
Well, yeah,
What'd you say, Philip?
I like that.
I was making a suggestion to Mr. Fleener.
I thought you were making a motion.
No, sir, not me. I'm a short timer. I'm staying out of this.
Oh, that's when you get to really do it. Play it in there.
I did. I voted by heart.
Okay. I guess we got a budget.
Well, hey, Keith, I did change my vote on the previous motion. I don't know what y'all ever decided on that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there is nothing in Robert's Rules of Order that allows a member to change your vote after the vote has been announced. However, there is precedent on this board. I have seen a member allowed to change their vote, it's been a few years, after the vote was taken. So it's your call.
That is,
Typically, if you strictly go by Robert's Rules, the member needs to move to reconsider the motion. That's a motion which puts the motion, if it passes, puts the motion back on the floor for discussion, but he has to have voted on the prevailing side.
And he did.
So if he wants to
Can
move, strictly speaking, he needs to move that it be reconsidered.
Did you get that, Mitch?
It's really hard to hear Dr. Flannery, but I think I thought, what I thought I heard him say is that I need to move to reconsider the motion.
Yep.
That is correct.
That is what I do. That's what I'll move to reconsider the motion,
Mr.
please.
Chairman, you need to ask the speaker if he voted on the prevailing side.
Did you vote on the prevailing side? Yes, you
I
did.
voted yes, I
Yes.
did.
Now you just get a second.
Okay,
Like a
I have,
motion.
can I have a second on this amendment or a motion? Motion?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Now, do we have to roll call on this?
Roll call on everything.
Are we back to discussion?
Or
No,
we back
not
to
yet.
discussion?
This is discussion on the motion to reconsider. And it can be
Okay.
discussed, but it can't be amended.
Well, what we do with it? For what? Take it off?
It can be discussed if the original motion was debatable, which it was, so you can discuss it if you want. If you don't want discussion, you can bring it to a vote and it takes a majority vote. If it passes, the budget is back on the floor for discussion.
All right, can I ask a question before we go into that? So if we did that, can we talk about the dietary budget
Do anything you want to.
Okay, so we can adjust the
The
dietary
whole budget's back on the
and
floor
put everything, will they still get five? Okay.
if it passes.
How you voting, Annette?
Yes.
Put it back, we're gonna put it back on the floor, the budget.
You need to vote.
Sir,
You have to vote.
You need to vote.
I need a roll call vote.
Mr. Buchanan said yes. Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger? Mr. Hammond?
No.
Mr. McLean?
No.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
And Mr. Irvin?
I'm gonna vote yes, because I won't see where this is going.
Mr. Chairman, the entire budget is now back on the floor for discussion.
Okay,
I thought we.
all right. What do y'all want to do about the budget?
Can I
I
make a
wanna
motion?
keep the 1% raise.
Is that a
Well-
motion?
Keith,
Wait a minute, Mitch.
I mean, the thing that changed my vote was the 1% additional going to dietary. So I'm gonna move to strike the $12,000 out of dietary for that 1%. That it'll just apply to,
Everybody
our
else.
employees within the general purpose school fund.
I'll second that. Everything else stays the same, Mitch?
That's the only change that I'm making.
Mitch, it would still apply to federal funds, even though they don't come out of the general fund, but if the general fund gets raised, federal fund employees is always got raised too.
Good point. Yeah, I think everybody ought to be getting the 1%. So if we're doing 1% to federal and 1% to general purpose school fund employees, and that would include, the food service director.
It would in this case, since she's paid out of the general
Right,
fund.
because that's not a 6% raise, that's a 1% raise.
And she did not get the 5% since she's paid out of the general
All right.
fund. So, yeah.
Mary Beth, you had something?
No, I just wanted to go ahead with what the motion, with the 1% and everything else that we had. Now, did Mitch make a motion? I mean, I was.
Yeah, to strike
I
the
thought
1%.
we were talking. I wasn't making a motion. I said I wanted to keep the 1%. But did you make a motion,
Yes.
Mitch?
He did, he just struck the 1% from the
Okay.
dietary.
I second
So the
that.
same, it was all the same. just
I'm
striking.
sorry. Well, yeah, I'm good with that.
Chad?
Can I make an amendment? Have the fire school back on it, now that we've had time to think about it.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second to put Power School back on as amendment?
I'll second it. We can pay $8,000 a month for Boones Creek, I can pay $8,000 a month for Paris. Hey, I know, times 12 's how much?
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the amendment.
They think we can get nothing out of it.
An amendment and a second to put Power School back on.
Amendment, yeah, please.
Roll call vote, please.
On what? The
On the
Even though that's been
amendment
voted
to
down
add Power
before,
School.
we make another motion and do it again.
No.
But it's not forbidden.
Mr.
Chairman
Fleener?
says-
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you can object to the consideration of the question.
We'll get into all that.
Mr. Ganger?
No.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
No.
Mr. Meredith?
This is to put the 80,000, the power school on?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan?
No.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
No.
One item.
No, 5-4.
5 noes.
Original motion.
Now, the original motion to put, which is the same budget except striking the 1% to dietary. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dillinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
No.
Mr. Hammond?
I'll vote yes this time.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
No.
How much?
72.
Okay, we have a budget. Thank you all for coming. What, Jennifer?
Can we set the time for the June meeting?
Can,
What to do about finance?
can we wait on the time for a little, till we find out what the governor does this week? If he's gonna lift all restrictions, is that a possibility, Mr.
Can we
Flannery?
I'm
set,
sorry.
If the governor lifts the restrictions, we can go back to a regular meeting at night, right?
My answer will be less than satisfying. I don't know what he's gonna do.
Okay.
Oh, but I do know this, the Executive Order 36 extends these sessions here through June the 30th.
Yeah.
I thought you was talking about the big meetings. No, this is extended through the 30th of June.
30th of June? So we can set times.
And all that really allows you to do is have multiple members stay home and attend digitally and keep the public away for safety's sake.
Okay, well, 5:30, is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
What about finance?
You'll have to ask the finance director and the
What's the
chairman.
date, Keith?
Ma'am, or sir,
Date? What was the date?
June 4th.
June the 4th,
How about finance at 3:30? Can everybody make it
That day?
that day?
5:30 is the board meeting.
Finance at 3:30.
We probably need to have a facility, Ellen.
Well, Jonesburg's gonna build what they want, it don't matter what we want.
You voted for it.
Are we
No,
off
I
record?
didn't.
Are we, Elliot, are we off record?
Do you
No,
have
for
any
Jonesburg.
the papers for
You
those
followed that the wheel
questions I
down
was
there.
asking about the Boones Creek?
Yeah.
Now,
Like,
Yeah, we're
I'd
still
like
in
to
here.
see.
I adjourn.
Ms. Hand,
Thank you.
you care if I send you?
That's good, because you're all still together. I wouldn't want the sunshine to go down.